Multiple staff members are here today to ensure that the meeting runs smoothly and all applicants and members of the public are able to participate in the meeting at the appropriate times. Today we've had a couple technical difficulties and we'll be going through this a little more old-fashioned, but if anyone, hopefully we can get the process out there and everybody understands as we go. If you're here today and would like to speak about a case, please provide your name clearly into the microphone, and please be sure to sign in either at the back of the room or at the podium for documentation purposes. If you are here today to speak about a case, you must speak up when the chairperson calls for public comment. And we'll do a roll call.
Yes, sir. Mr. Cohn.
Present.
Mr. Cook.
Present.
Ms. Davis.
Here.
Mr. Harp.
Here.
Mr. Tupper.
Here.
We have quorum.
I'll give a brief review of the meeting format. Applicants with requests before the Planning Commission are allotted a presentation time of 10 minutes. This time should include, but is not limited to, an overview of the project, case history, and any pertinent meetings held regarding the request. This time also includes all persons presenting information on behalf of the applicant, such as attorneys, engineers, and architects. This time limit does not include any questions asked by the Planning Commission or staff regarding a request. During the public comment period, members of the general public are given the opportunity to address their concerns in intervals of 2 minutes. After the public comment period, applicants have 5 minutes to respond. Once the Planning Commission begins deliberation, no additional comments will be permitted by the applicant or the public. The administrator has a timer and will make presenters aware of when their time has expired. The Planning Commission reserves the right to amend these procedures on a case-by-case basis. Are there any changes to the agenda?
There have not been any changes since publication.
All right. The Planning Commission uses the consent agenda to approve non-controversial or routine matters by a single motion or vote. Examples of such items on the consent agenda include approval of site plans, annexations, and street names. If a member of the Planning Commission or the general public wants to discuss an item on the consent agenda, you must speak up after the consent agenda is read. Then that item is removed from the consent agenda and discussed during the meeting with public comment. The Planning Commission then approves the remaining consent agenda items.
I'll go ahead and read the consent agenda. The first item is to approve, approve the March 9th, 2023 minutes. The second case is an interim future land use map amendment and interim zoning map amendment for a pending annexation, which is Annex-2023-0004 at 800 Dutch Square Boulevard. This is request recommendation on the assignment of interim land use classifications of Urban Core Community Activity Center, UCAC2, and assignment of interim zoning of Community Activity Center Corridor, CAC, for a pending annexation. The property is currently classified as mixed-use corridor in priority investment area and designated Community Activity Center and zoned GC by Richland County. Case 3 is a major site plan review. This is SPLAT-2022-0032, 17.5 acres at the 3900 block of Percival Road near Antler Way. Requests preliminary plat approval for the construction of an 87-lot attached townhome subdivision, Carlton Glen. The properties are zoned RM1, general residential. Case 4, SPLAT-2023-0024, 29.17 acres, Riding Grove Road. Request site plan approval for the construction of 11-lot single-family residential subdivision, Pecan Orchard Phase 2, formerly Pecan Grove. The property is currently zoned planned development in Wood Creek Farms. Case 5 is a zoning map amendment. This is ZMA-2023-0003, 4401 Windermere Avenue. Request recommendation to rezone the property from residential single-family medium lot district, RSF2, to residential mixed district, RM2. Case 6, ZMA-2023-0004, 335 South Pickens Street. Request recommendation to rezone the property from Neighborhood Activity Center Corridor, NAC, in the Airport Safety Overlay District, OVA, to Residential Mixed District, RM2. Case 7, zoning map amendment, ZMA-2023-0005, 611 Holly Street. Request recommendation to rezone the property from Residential Mixed District, RM1, in the Community Character Protection Overlay District, OVCCP, to Community Activity Center Corridor, CAC, in the Community Character Protection Overlay District, OVCCP. Case number 8, ZMA-2023-0006, 620 Meadow Street. Request recommendation to rezone the property from Office and Institutional District, OI, in the Community Character Protection Overlay District, OVCCP, to Neighborhood Activity Center Corridor District, NAC, in the Community Character Protection Overlay District, OVCCP. And Case 9, ZMA-2023-0007, next to 405 Gervais Street. Request recommendation to rezone the property from Planned Development District, PD, in the City Center Design Overlay District, and Height and Setback View Corridor Protection Overlay District to Community Activity Center Corridor District, CAC, in the City Center Design District Overlay, and Height and Setback View Corridor Protection Overlay District. And that concludes the items on the consent agenda this evening.
Thank you. Is there anyone on the Planning Commission with any questions or who would like to have an item removed from the consent agenda? And is there anyone from the public who would like an item removed from the consent agenda? Do I have do I have a motion and a second to accept the consent agenda, subject to all conditions?
So are there people, you're here to speak about one of those items? Okay, which item was it, ma'am? Windermere? Okay, thank you. So, yeah, hang on, we need to get a motion. Could y'all just
Sure.
get a motion to remove that item?
Could I have a motion to remove item number 5, ZMA-2023-003, 4401 Windermere Avenue from the consent agenda for regular discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve or to move ZMA 2023-003-4401 Windermere to discussion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Number 5 will be moved to the regular agenda. Before we entertain any motions on the balance of the consent agenda, is there anyone else in the public who would like to have another case heard removed from the consent agenda?
Number 3,
Have you-
near Antler Way.
Did you sign in?
I didn't, where do I need to sign in?
Can-
It's okay, there should be a sign in at the back of the room, but we can do that in a minute.
Okay.
Number 3, okay,
All right.
thank you.
Can I get a motion to have S-Plat-2022-0032 for 17.58 acres on the 3900 block of Percival Road near Antler Way removed from the consent agenda for discussion on the regular agenda?
Move to remove S-Plat 2022-0032 from the consent agenda.
Can I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Item number 3 will be on the regular agenda. Is there anyone else? Can you come to the podium, please? Thank you.
word number 5, do we have a chance to debate why we're being nixed?
So if there's any, whether it's from the commission or the public, any request to have the case heard, we're obligated to do so, but you will have the opportunity to present your case on the regular agenda.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time hearing you.
Sorry as well.
My hearing aids went bad on me. So
No, if, it's a good question. If there's anyone on the planning commission who would like to have an item removed for further discussion, or anyone from the public, we're obligated as a body to provide that opportunity to the
Okay.
public.
So does this mean we move it to the next level next month?
No, sir. It will be on the agenda today for
Oh,
regular
okay,
discussion.
So we stick around and then
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yes. If there are no other requests from the public or the planning commissioners to remove any items off the consent agenda, I'll entertain a motion to approve the remainder of the consent agenda.
Mr. Chair, I move that the remaining items on the consent agenda be accepted as presented.
May I get a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Lucinda, how would you like us to start with the general cases?
I guess we need to start with case number 3, just in the order of which they were on the agenda.
Okay.
So that's S. Platt. I guess we have a copy. It's on the consent, that's what I'm wondering. Okay, we can go ahead and just redo it. So this will be S. Platt -2022-0032, 17.58 acres on Percival Road near Antler Way.
And this is, this property is located in the 3900 block of Percival Road near Antler Way. And the proposed subdivision will contain 87 attached single-family residences on 17.58 acres. The single-family lots will range in size from 1,705 to 4,995 square feet, and some of the property will be preserved as open space. In accordance with Section 17-2.5, application for specific review procedures and decision standards. J, subdivision of the Unified Development Ordinance. A preliminary plat shall be approved upon finding that the proposed preliminary plat is in substantial conformity with the approved sketch plan and complies with the standards of Article 6 Land Development Subdivision Standards, and any other applicable standards of this ordinance and any other applicable ordinances and regulations. And the sketch plan approval letter for this project is attached to the Planning Commission packet. And if the commission would be so inclined to grant this approval, staff requests that the commission make the finding that all of the requirements in Section 17-2.5 listed above are met, and that they're also conditioned upon staff comments.
Thank you. Are there any questions from any of the other planning commissioners?
So this is basically an extension of the adjacent subdivision or apartment complex? Is that right?
It's not connected to
It's
the
not.
adjacent subdivision. No, this is a separate subdivision.
Does anyone else have any questions? Is the applicant present to provide an overview of the project? How are you all? Good, thank you. Can can you please tell us your name?
Yeah, my name is Philip Reams. I am with PC Land Development, representing about the Carlton Glen project. 87 units, and I heard a question, I think, about whether it was connected to the apartments. At one time, we had talked about possibly having an emergency fire exit for fire services and emergency services through the apartment complex next door. But since we're under 100 units, we did not have to have an emergency exit through the apartment complex. Happy to answer any questions y'all may have.
Does anyone have any questions of the applicant? We may have some more in a moment, but thank
No
you.
problem. Thank y'all.
Are there any members of the public who would like to speak in favor or against the project? Or the site plan, I should say.
Hi, I live in the subdivision that's going to be adjacent to this development.
May I get your name again, please?
Nancy Behenna.
Thank you.
And years ago, almost 13 years ago, that land that they're going to be using was part of our subdivision. I picked my land to build my house because it was supposed to be a cul-de-sac with just 2 additional homes. The developer went bankrupt, never developed that land next to me, which our HOA has been maintaining and our HOA dues have been paying to maintain. The land recently went into foreclosure for lack of paying taxes. They are bringing heavy equipment in and over my driveway. I don't know what they're doing in our subdivision. When that land got rezoned years ago that I fought, it was supposed to be for another subdivision behind me for over 200 units. And they were supposed to build their own road coming in from Percival Road, not using our subdivision. But that's not what's happening, or that's not what I'm seeing what's happening. Today I hear there's going to be an 87 townhome type subdivision. I don't know where that came from, how all that got approved, never got notification of it. And this has been going on for years. It's bait and switch. You know, they present something to the city approves it, and then they change it. They lied to the city and said the land next to me was lower than my house, so the drainage pond, they are going to put 5 feet from my property line, 30 feet by 40 feet is what was proposed in part of their development. It was going to be 5 feet from my garage, or 10 feet because I'm on a 5-foot property line. They were going to build on my property line 5 feet behind me, going up 44 feet for a 3 to 4 story building. The city told me to build a fence. The land behind me is already 8 feet higher than my house. I can build a 6-foot fence. So I don't know what's going next to me. Is it going to be adjacent to my house? Is every animal in those woods going to be now living in my garage? I can't see how we can approve this. I mean, at some point, we've got to draw the line. This subdivision can't handle more traffic. You can't get out on Percival Road as it is. We have 2 entrances and a fire entrance. If they're going to be using our entrance as well for another 87 units, we'll never get in and out on Percival Road. And we have major accidents out there on Percival Road. We had a head-on collision in the middle of the night. It can't go on Percival Road. It's only a 2-lane highway. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else from the public who would like to comment on this item? I have a question relative to the plan. It appears to me the access is only off Percival Road. Is that?
That's correct.
Okay. It's not through the other subdivision?
Correct.
Okay.
So they've got their own separate access, not through this initial subdivision's got now.
Yes, they have their own ingress and egress.
So are they connected?
They are not.
They're not, okay. And then I guess, is there, does this project, and you may have done it, does it warrant a traffic impact study, or
It does not.
does not? Okay.
Mr. Chair, can we get a little bit more clarity on the entrances and exits on Percival Road from the developer? Because I'm not clear on how that's coming through.
Could we speak with the applicant?
Good afternoon. My name is Justin Waring. I'm the engineer on the project, sorry. Yeah, it's just the one, we have a new entrance off of Percival Road. It'll be full exit and access, so it's not connected to anything else out there.
When I look at the entrances from Percival, it's just one small area. That's why I'm questioning it. So it's going to appear in that area, kind of at the top of the property, if I'm looking at it correctly?
Yeah, we've got a bigger plan here.
So that top right corner is Percival Road, correct?
Percival Road is going this way. This is the entrance right here.
Okay. Thank you.
I guess you combine these two parcels to make it 17 to 14 to 3. Okay.
Can you talk a little bit about it looks like, I think there's 2 detention ponds on there. Can you talk a little bit more about, I guess, what's around there? It looks like there's, I can't tell.
There's a massive wetlands. Gills Creek goes right, that's this down here. It's Gills Creek. So we've got a pretty significant buffer. We've got to maintain at least a minimum 30-foot wetland buffer, which we're maintaining. In most places, it's bigger than that. It's like 50 feet. So the one of the ponds is going to discharge directly into that wetlands, Gills Creek area. The other one discharges into a wetland area as well. But, I mean, obviously, we're meeting all the city requirements. We're reducing the stormwater compared to existing conditions.
Right. Is there, I think this is the landscaping plan. Is there any trees around those ponds? Is that what the dark area is? The lines?
Yeah, I guess I'm not sure exactly what you're referring to, but, yeah, there was some plantings going around the ponds for screening. And we've gone through staff comments and have responded to those at this point, so.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions? Jonathan, do you mind telling me again, I think you said if there is a motion to approve with staff, all staff recommendations, or conditions, what that number was?
Sure. If section 17.2.5, there's certain criteria with regards to approving a preliminary plat. And it must be in substantial conformity with the approved sketch plan and with the standards of Article 6 of the Land Development Standards and any other applicable standards and ordinances. So if the planning commission is inclined to grant approval, you would just need to you would just need to grant it with the condition that, with the finding that all of the requirements have been met.
Is there any further discussion? I will entertain a motion.
So, Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve S-Plat 2022-0032 with staff modifications. Is that, do you need to spell out specifically that?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
17.
17.2.5
17.2.
and Article 6 of the Land Development Code and all staff comments.
Do I need to withdraw that motion and then restate it, or?
Yeah, if you go ahead.
All right, I'll withdraw the previous motion, and Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion to approve S-Plat 2022-0032 with staff comments that it, I'm sorry, to state this motion, what is the motion exactly, that 17.2.5 staff, with staff comments, or?
And all the requests have been met.
I'm making sure we have the proper
Sure.
verbiage before we go forward with that.
If it's a motion to approve, it would be a motion to approve the application with staff comments and all requirements met for Articles 17.2.5 and 6 of the Land Development Code.
Well, I'll withdraw my previous motion. Make sure we have all that so far out before here.
Make sure that it says that all requests have been made with staff comments, and it also meets the requirements.
You want to make that motion?
I don't know if I can either. I'll take a stab at it. Mr. Chair, I move that SPLAT 22022-032 be approved, and it requires that all requests have been met, and with staff comments for Section 17.2 on Article 6.
Is that sufficient?
Yeah, I think that you could say that you recommend, it would probably be something like you make a motion to approve the plat with the finding that all of the requirements of Section 17-2.5 have been met, and with all staff comments. Wait,
You want me just to make a stab? Or do you want to rescind
You
it?
can go ahead.
I'll put the motion out that we recommend approval for S-Plat 2022-0032 for 17.58 acres at the 3900 block of Percival Road near Antler Way, TMS number 22714-01-02 and 22713-01-01, with the findings that the plan generally conforms to all the guidelines, that staff comments are addressed, and all requirements of Section 17.2.5 and Article 6 of the Land Development Code are met.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, motion approved. We will review case number 5 from the consent agenda.
Yes. Case number 5, this is a zoning map amendment, ZMA-2023-0003, 4401 Windermere Avenue. This is a request for a recommendation to rezone the property from residential single-family medium lot district, RSF2, to residential mixed district, RM2. And the applicant is here, and I guess if you'd like to come up and present your request, please.
Will you provide an overview of it first?
Basically, we're just trying to turn this into a multifamily home. The house itself is, we've had professional plumbers, electricians go through and say that we can do this to the unit. It is a
Can we, yes, ma'am, hold on one moment, please. Can we hold on just one moment and get a case overview, and then we'll call you up? Thank you.
Sorry. Trying to find my case summary. So I guess just as a brief overview, this is a property on Windermere Avenue. It's a large kind of L-shaped property that is, has a land use of UCR 1. And the request is to rezone it from the current zoning of RSF 2 to RM 2. And I apologize, I think I may have given my case summary away for somebody to read, but basically, it's just, it's consistent with the future land use plan, and also, it is a larger property. The applicant will talk about more what they want to do with the property, but it is adjacent to some RM2 properties in that neighborhood. Oh, thank you. And so the staff recommendation is to approve the request, seeing that it is consistent with the future land use plan, and they are planning, as far as I know, even though the zoning stands alone, to reuse the existing, the building. Do you have any specific questions for staff?
Any commissioners have any questions? Can the applicant please tell us about the project and come on up?
I'm a property manager, and
Would you mind telling us your name?
it's Don Sher with Ormo Property Solutions.
Thank you.
Basically, I've been a property manager for about 8 years, and there's a lot of housing need that needs to be done. You're starting to see homeless people gather throughout the city, and this is an opportunity that can help render some of these homeless people and individuals. We're not
Can you get a little closer to the mic?
I'm sorry?
Can you get a little closer to the mic?
Okay. I'm
Thank you.
sorry.
No, it's fine. Thank you.
Okay. Basically, we're just trying to fill a need, and my owner here has purchased a house a couple of years ago, and there's been situations there where he has not been able to, he lives out of state, and he's had cancer, and we've had, when he purchased the place, there was a lady that had lived there and had some problems with the unit. That being said, he's hired me. Through COVID, we could not evict a lady. So now that she's gone, she had some mental issues. We've been there cleaning up the place, making the place better. It's still not there yet, but literally, it will be probably the best house on the neighborhood when we're finished. If you drive down the road now, there are a lot of houses that are dilapidated on that street. And I'm kind of surprised if they're with the association, why haven't they done their part in getting those other houses fixed? I don't know what their argument is at this point, but we've got electricians, plumbers, everybody go in and tell us that this house can handle up to possibly 4 families. There's a lot of space around the house to where from the road you will only see parking on the left side and on the front of the house. So in the grand scheme of things, there's not a lot of vehicles that will be there. There'll be also parking on the back side where nobody else will be able to see all the vehicles. It's a 1.4 acre unit. So,
Thank you. Do any of you have any questions for the applicant?
Is anybody living in this unit now?
not now, no, sir.
So it's functionally obsolete or no?
Well, I wouldn't say it's obsolete, but it's been, we've been literally revamping it for a single family at this point. But it's large enough to where you can split in a duplex or a triplex to allow more families to come. I manage right now about 120 houses. Every house I have is full. I get more calls needing more houses than you can shake a stick at. Literally, I'll tell you how bad it is. I had a house last year, or before COVID, that I used every means to advertise this house. In a 3-week time frame, I only had 3 people show up to see this house in 3 weeks. The same house, a few months ago, I advertised it with one website and literally 53 calls in 3 hours. That tells you how bad housing is and that we need more houses. But for them to be pointing fingers at this particular house, I find it amazing because it's even in the condition it's in, it's not a perfect condition. Even the condition it's in is probably better than most houses in that neighborhood. There's probably one across the street that's, I would say I'd buy it if I had the money to buy it or if it was for sale. But other than that, every house on that street needs to be revamped. So that's why I'm kind of shocked that somebody's here, having this debate right now.
Part of the property also adjacent to the multi-family homes.
Would you mind giving us your name too,
Yeah,
please?
good afternoon. Part of this property is adjacent for multi-family home, and this property is 1.39 acres. So how come we cannot use as a multi-family?
Well,
Thank you.
thank you. Is there anyone from the public who would like to speak in for or against this application?
Good afternoon. My name is Kay Patterson, and I'm president of the Windermere Springs Neighborhood Association. The house that is being discussed right now is part of Windermere Springs, and that area was established back in, get my dates right. It was established in 1897 by Richland County map by Mr. John Hargo Hyatt. It was known as a Hyatt area. Let me back up a little further. In 1898, Hyatt Park was built. In 1899, Hyatt Park Elementary School was built. And if we come a little further in the history, that was known as the Eau Claire area. Mr. Hyatt began in 1902 to build a community. And that community was to attract doctors, lawyers from the city of Columbia at that time out into what it eventually became known as the town of Eau Claire. Just a little history in that area. The homes was nice. It sits between, the community was a nice community. Right now it sits between 2 higher learning education. We have the Columbia College to our right, and it borders the Lutheran Seminary. on North Main Street. As you know, that the City of Columbia is beginning to revitalize that area. And as the applicant said, it's true, we do have some houses that need to be looked at. The City of Columbia Code Inspector, if I work with them, let me back up too. I became president of the neighborhood last year. And I began to work with the code enforcements to make the area more pleasing to, as he said, the population demands, as the population demand housing. That particular area, we have no qualms with it becoming a duplex house, but to make it a quad, which is what the applicant says, he wants to take it from a single family residential to a quad, to put 4 buildings on that particular lot. We see that as a problem. I've talked with the neighbors, they've seen the sign, they've called me, and there is a majority of those that disapprove this. They said that it wouldn't be fair to have those many people in that particular area with only one entrance in and out. But also, I have a picture, Mr. Shear down there. Yeah, he hasn't been forthright with the community at all. He's come in and he's talked about his house being the best house on the street, which I totally disagree with. I have pictures here where he came in. They started back in February doing a little yard debris. The yard debris began to mound more and more. I called the city code inspector. They come out, enforcement, they come out and they look. Then it turned into, it's just a huge pile. It's a mess. Most people, when they're doing renovation on their homes, they rent, the dumpsters, those real big old dumpsters and stuff. But it's just blatantly just laying there right now. What he's done is he's had disregard for his neighbors. And I have pictures to just show just how they just come into the neighborhood and they want to attract people to live there.
I'm gonna have to
Oh, it's
have you
time?
wrap it up.
I've reached 10 minutes already? Oh my God, I'm so excited. So it's 2 minutes that I was allowed? Oh,
Yeah.
okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Please disapprove this request. Thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak? Please come up, ma'am.
My name is Cheryl Mitchell, and I live in the neighborhood. I am familiar with Mr. Ali and Don. I do agree that there are some issues in the neighborhood. However, building what he's asking to build in the neighborhood, which is actually across from my home, is not reasonable. There is not enough room. There is not an ingress or an egress point from the opposite side of the street, meaning the opposite side of his property, that would allow people to reach wherever he's trying to build something from Main Street. The only way into his property is on Windermere. That is it, which is adjacent to the side of my home. So we already deal with issues with other tenants. We have more tenants that are renting than actual homeowners. So that creates a big problem. If his goal is to help the homeless, then you help them one family at a time. But the home that he's describing is not better than all the other homes in the neighborhood. And I'm a little offended that Don even made that comment because he's seen my home. They're familiar with my husband, he's a contractor. Our roof is new, we have siding, we have a fence in the yard. There's nothing wrong with our home. So when you talk about improving the neighborhood, it doesn't just start with new homes or putting additional housing in the neighborhood. it comes to the people that you put into those homes. And if you can't attract people that respect the property and that want to be there and respect their neighbors, then it doesn't matter how many houses you make available. The neighborhood will never grow. You'll never have the tenants or the homeowners there that you want. It's not the issue of it being an apartment or a duplex. It's just that if you don't live in that neighborhood, it's not fair to make the assumption that you can just move homeless people into a neighborhood that you don't occupy, that you don't have to live in. Gunshots, drive-bys, holes in cars. They see the same thing that I do. I don't know how they could miss it. So for Don to say that they want to bring more people in, you have to consider who you're bringing into the area in addition to that. So if you're trying to bring homeless
I
people.
have to ask you to,
Wrap it up?
yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Thank
Well, I guess that's my 2 minutes. I do not think that this should be approved for various reasons. I wish I did have more time to share. So,
Thank you.
thank you.
Are there any other members of the public who would like to speak? Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Wanda Smith. I've lived in the neighborhood for 34 years. We have seen changes for better and for worse. When we talked to the, is it Ali? Is that your name? He spoke to us at a meeting. He said that he only wanted to build a duplex. The application that he put in said it was for a quad. He said there are first he said 4 rooms. Then I questioned him again, and he said it's only 4 bedrooms. So we kind of got the impression that he's not forthright with us, and for them to say that our neighborhood needs repair, that's left on code enforcement. We do report to them. We cannot go ourselves and repair the property. And I feel like I said, he has not been truthful to us about what he has to do with the property. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who would like to comment on this application? Do any planning commissioners have any questions of the applicant or staff?
What size is the dwelling, square footage?
I think probably it's 2,000.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just so I fully understand this you're not building new buildings, you're gonna go in here and revamp what it is, whether it's one room or 4 rooms.
Exactly. I mean,
Yeah, that four is what
right,
you're saying.
we've only really gutted the place. We haven't really done anything to it because waiting on this to be presented to you guys. We will have to literally get, new building permits to change it over as well. But right now, we're setting it up as, cleaning up the place and making it to a 1 unit right now. But we can easily, based on the contractor, he pretty much said, we can add the kitchen here, and he's telling us all this stuff. Now, we haven't approved any type of drawings at this point. We just started this process to see how far we could go with it.
I guess, I have a question. Is this this is just a zoning change. Any future change of the structure for multiple structures would still have to have a site plan review?
Well, not necessarily.
No?
I mean, only if it met the threshold for site plan review, which is more than 24 units. So,
Okay. And then, in looking at this, it appears there's no other parcel on the street that is RM.
there are several, I don't know if y'all have your map available. There's a whole section of the neighborhoods that's RM2 also. The immediately adjacent parcel is not. It's the RSF, is it 2 RSF? Yeah.
I'm sorry, within this block? Just so I'm looking at this correctly?
Yeah, I mean, on Windermere, there are the zoning changes from RM2 to RSF, where the brown goes to yellow. I mean, I guess there is a street on the other, across the street, there's a cross street that sort of acts as a little bit of a dividing line. So this is one parcel in from where there is RM2 properties. And I mean, I apologize for not finding
No, I know.
the case summary early, but I'll just read the staff recommendations just so everybody has it. It does say the proposed rezoning request is for a slightly more intense designation, which is often not supported in single-family residential neighborhoods. However, the much larger size and L shape of the parcel and its adjacency to a large area of RM2 along Hyatt and Windermere make it somewhat atypical of other adjacent parcels along the street. So, it was one of those that, could go either way. That's why we're all here. Staff finds that the proposed zoning of RM2 is consistent with the future land use classification.
And forgive me, but when you're coming down Windermere, it looks like there's a small street coming down to the backside of this parcel. Am I seeing that correctly? Between the two RM2 lots? Let's see if I can zoom in. Can you see what I'm... Like here? Yeah, what is that?
Don't see it.
Here's you saying this is a street?
I'm asking, right there.
Okay.
I just can't tell what that is.
We're going to try to pull it up on the
Yeah,
laptop
sorry.
real quick.
I don't think that's...
It looks like a little alley might be between those two properties.
Just a moment, we'll come back. All right, so one last just clarification for me from staff. So in RM, in order to have a site plan review in the RM zoning, there has to be 24 or more units?
Anywhere in the city. That's just the threshold, yes.
Okay.
Yes,
Okay,
correct. I mean, thank you, Jonathan. I mean, all site plans go through staff review, but in order for it to come to the planning commission for that level of site plan review, it would have to meet that threshold.
okay.
So a 4 townhome unit on 1 acre wouldn't have to do, come in front of us.
Correct. They would just have to meet the requirements of the Unified Development Ordinance.
Do any planning commissioners have any additional questions?
I do. I'm still seeking clarity on the duplex building as it relates to 4 families in the current structure as to how that might be. Is there 4 entrances or is it 1 entrance for 4 families? Do you have any idea at this point, sir?
Can the applicant come to the podium, please?
We're trying to get 4 family for the unit.
But typically, a duplex would have a separate entrance, so is there a separate entrance for each family unit in
Yes,
this
ma'am,
home?
there actually would be 4 entrances. I mean, we can go to 3 units. They'll,
And when I'm there, it stays at 3 entrances. You have a picture of the house.
And has that already been designed, or is that at this point just your plans based on what construction to be forthcoming?
It would be nothing to do 3 entrances. The 4th would be more money to do, but we can stop at 3 entrances, 3 units.
Okay, all right.
Does that make sense?
I understand.
Yes,
Thank you.
One ingress, egress, correct?
Correct, but the driveway is like a horseshoe that goes around. It actually has 2 driveways, technically.
I see what you're saying, I just wanted to clarify.
Yes, sir.
I think for our purposes, that's all a permitting
Yeah.
issue. What we're deciding is if we're going to change or make a motion to change the zoning that would allow a different use or higher increase of density later.
Right, the zoning is a recommendation to city council, and then once the zoning, then that's what applies to the property. So any kind of specific development decisions, really, kind of irrelevant now because they'll just, have to follow the code when it comes to that. But right now, it's just about considering the rezoning.
Are there any other questions of the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
Any comments? I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve ZMA 2023 at 4401 Windermere Avenue based on staff recommendations, I guess, based on staff recommendations.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Can we get a vote? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those no. And
No.
opposed? No.
No.
We'll do a roll call. No.
Mr. Cook,
Yes.
Ms. Davis,
No.
Mr. Harp,
Yes.
and Mr. Tupper.
Yes.
The motion passes.
All right, this will bring us to the first item on the regular agenda.
That's going to bring us to S-Plan 2023-0005 at 3800 Overbrook Drive, TMS number 13708-0501. And this project was originally scheduled to be heard by the Planning Commission on March the 9th, but the applicant requested that the case be deferred in an effort to revise the site plan. And since then, the site plan has been revised to eliminate access to along Super Street. The project entails the demolition of a single-family residence and the construction of 34 townhomes on 1.8 acres at the corner of Overbrook Drive and Super Street. The townhomes will be configured in 3-unit, 4-unit, and 5-unit buildings, and each townhome will contain 2 bedrooms, and the required number of off-street parking spaces is 68, where 68 are being provided. There are no additional parking spaces to accommodate visitors. The applicant is providing 8 bicycle parking spaces and 4 storage units. In accordance with section 17-2.5, application-specific review procedures and decision standards for site plans of the Unified Development Ordinance, a site plan shall be approved only upon finding the applicant demonstrates all of the following standards. The proposed uses are allowed in the zoning district in accordance with Article 4, use regulations. The development and uses in the site plan comply with Article 4, use regulations. The development proposed in the site plan and its general layout and design comply with all applicable standards of Article 5, development standards. The development proposed in the site plan and its general layout and design comply with all applicable standards of Article 6. And the development proposed in the site plan is consistent with all other applicable standards of this ordinance and the city and code of ordinances. Should the commission be inclined to grant approval of this major site plan, staff requests that the commission make the finding that all requirements of section 17-2.5 listed above are met and conditioned upon the following staff comments. Lucinda handed out to you just now a revised packet for this case. And in that packet, there is a site plan. The site plan that was on the website showed access to, showed a driveway to Suber Street, which has been eliminated. In addition to that, there was a floor plan that showed 3-bedroom units. And you'll notice that this plan shows 2-bedroom units. So the revisions are 2-bedroom units, and they eliminated the driveway access to Suber Street, whereas there's only one access to the development. And the applicant is present and can go further into their case.
Can I ask you one quick question? You said that we went from 3-bedroom units to 2-bedroom units, or the other way around?
That is correct. He is proposing 2-bedroom units.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any questions for staff?
Do we know the square footage of these apartments?
He provided, it looks like 1,100 square feet.
Okay, thank you.
Is the applicant here to speak for the project?
Good afternoon. My name is Wyman Bowers. I'm here on behalf of LaFi Development. Appreciate Mr. Chambers and his staff working with us, as always. Just a quick overview of this project. We've been before you one other time on an annexation matter. So this is actually coming in from Richland County to the city. So that has been completed. City Council has approved that. Just a few highlights, if you'll indulge me. We have complied with the land use ordinance and staff requests and requirements. In addition, we've met with the neighborhood association, and good to see y'all here, on a number of occasions, and have had numerous conversations with them. We've sought to listen, to hear their concerns, and to make some modifications. You just heard from Mr. Chambers that the most recent revision was a major one. So we had 2 ingress-egress points, one on Overbrook, one on Suber Street. There's been a concern voiced by the neighborhood association about the traffic, particularly on Suber. So we sought to work with them, also with city staff, because there are, for instance, 911 emergency access requirements, those types of things that we desire to and, of course, want to meet. But we were able to come up with a solution that removed one of the ingress-egress points that was on Suber, and that's now been removed. So the only ingress-egress is on Overbrook. Just a couple of other things that we've done as we've listened to the neighborhood association and sought to incorporate their desires into this plan. We've included, we've removed all the Herbie-Kirby's because 34 would be a lot, so we've got a dumpster on the site now. The open space requirement, we have not only complied with it, but we've allowed for 44% more open space than is required by the ordinance. We've also included sidewalks. There aren't many sidewalks in Rosewood, but we've sought to include those here so that Rosewood will be a more walkable community. It's a great place to live, and we just want to enhance that. And then finally, We're going to make some improvements with the current stormwater going down Overbrook as a result of this development. And I'm sure there'll be questions after you hear from those at the Neighborhood Association, but any questions now that I can answer for the commission?
Just so the drawing we have just shows that the driveway that's on Suber, is that just going to be a continuation of green space with a dead end at the parking lot?
On Overbrook?
I'm sorry, yes. No. Suber?
That's incorrect. So there should have been a revised, so that site plan is what we modified from the March meeting to the April meeting.
But just for clarification, there's only one entrance.
Correct, it's
Okay.
just on Overbrook.
Is the unit count the same?
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, it's enough, yeah. Yep. Anyone have any questions for the applicant? On the planning commission? I have just one general question with regard to the stormwater.
Yes, sir.
How are you, I mean, I know you'll have to go through a civil site plan review. What are your thoughts there?
So we will bring it out to Overbrook and then go down the hill and tie into the existing stormwater that's at the bottom of the hill. So we'll pipe it all the way down.
And then are you going to detain on site?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. It's a very flat site, but we do anticipate having to detain some.
How many units, I guess, did you do down the street on that half an acre, 3/4 of an acre? Is it in comparison to units? If I were to do the math on that and.
Mike?
Paul Mason.
Sorry. The units you did down the street, you're on, let's just say, 0.2 acres. You put 5 units there, or 5 townhomes, or is that equivalent to what you got over here up the street? Or have you pushed it more, or have you left it less? I'm just curious.
I have not done the math on that, so I wouldn't be able to answer that. So I don't know. We were planning on doing 6 there, but due to the setbacks, it's a triangle, and due to the setbacks, we could only get 5. But I have not done the math on that, so I couldn't answer. So
Just from that's kind of what I was looking at comparison-wise,
Yes, sir. Yeah, to speak more broadly to that question, we certainly comply with the zoning. It's RM2.
Right, absolutely.
And there's 44% more open space than is required. So I'll just let that stand for itself.
Cool.
How do you plan to meet emergency needs when you only have the one exit?
We've run that through 911 and the city, and they said that we would be in compliance with the current plan as we've submitted it. So, forgive me for not being a 911 expert, but that's why we rely on the city.
I understand.
I have a question just in general about the landscaping. Where, with the city reviewing comments, where does that review? I didn't see that listed. Is that under, would that be in the forestry section or?
No, that's under planning and development service. That's under planning and development services comments.
So we've met with Scott Holder on this and have already begun to kind of sketch out loosely what he would like to see and meet all those requirements actually. So
Yeah, that's what I was checking, because it says these other sections, it'll say recommend approval or with staff comments or conditions of approval, that's all. I didn't know if there was anything tied to the landscaping specifically, or if that was involved in any of these.
Yes, sir, I believe it falls under.
Those are under planning and development services, so building comments, planning comments, and everything that's encompassed under planning and development services are in there. Mr. Holder has reviewed the plan.
It's been part of the review.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions from any commissioners? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll hear public input. If there's anyone from the public who would like to speak to this application, please come up.
Good evening. My name's Whitney Denton. I'm here not just on behalf of my own home, but for the neighborhood as a whole. I'm actually going to ask first and foremost why this isn't deferred. This is the first moment we've seen the site plan with Suber entrance closed. Mr. Bowers emailed one to Michelle and I. We asked for clarification if this was the correct design. I believe almost the past week we've been asking for the correct design. We are just seeing this official with Suber cut off today. There are also several errors within the site plan packet that was linked off of the planning's agenda. It specifically states 32 units instead of 34. The last design we saw were 3 bedrooms, not 2. We met with Mr. Bowers on site on February 20th. Then City Council was the next day. He assured us on that Monday they were going to be 2 bedrooms, 2 parking spaces per unit, which would give enough. He said, according to what he had been told, that would be enough parking. If you do look at where the concrete pad is in the parking lot, how it juts out, the spaces on either side of that pad, they can't really be used because that concrete pad's going to jut out and block those 2 spaces. So that's really down to 66 units. I believe on his March the 9th planning packet, he stated something about trying to help alleviate some housing issues within the city, part of Columbia Compass, Rosewood 25-year plan. The 5 units on Montgomery, 4 of the 5 are Airbnbs. Currently, Airbnbs. We have asked, please do not build another design like this. They stick out like a sore thumb. Please go look at Wiley Street, which was built, and it's within character. Please do not build something that's going to come in and stick out as the first thing you see. This is not what our neighborhood looks like. Mayor Rickerman even said there are so many designs that can be done that look like single family, that will look like Columbia Compass, Rosewood 25-year plan. This design is not it.
Thank you. Are there any other people from the public who would like to speak?
My name's Robert Duddick. I live at 3850 Overbrook Drive, which is a half a block from this proposed project. My wife and I have lived there since 1986. It's 37 years. Now, as I look at your staff comments and the things that were read out, again, when we were before City Council, the mayor, I believe one other member of council, I think it was Councilman Brennan, asked that Mr. Bowers' work compromise, and that's not been done. That simply had not been done. We've gone from, it's going in the other direction. We've gone from 32 to 34, and I see on your plan here, it talks about going to lesser units would make this much better. But also, my wife's going to speak to you in a minute, and she's done a lot of talking to the neighbors. And one thing she's going to tell you, 11 of the 13 households, 11 of 13 do not want this project, or they certainly do not want it as it is drawn up now. Now, here you have your staff comments, and there are a couple things that really stick out. One is, this is not in the character of this neighborhood or this area. We certainly have other multifamily housing down Overbrook Drive where I live, but this is on the very corner where you have South Kilbourne neighborhood sign, a Baptist church across the street, and he wants to put in 34 units. Now, what your staff comments say is we'll allow for development and growth, but not at the expense of losing the community's character and sense of place. That's not a platitude. That is what you put out here, and this would definitely change the character, destroy it. And it also talked, your staff comments, on maintaining the single-family density throughout the neighborhood and keep strong sense of what is our community in this area. So again, this is going in the wrong direction. It's across from a Baptist church. The neighbors that we've talked to, this is a very opposed project in our neighborhood. I live on Overbrook. Now I get what Whitney just said about deferring this because they've been taken totally by surprise on this Suber Street being closed. But let me point out, is Overbrook only being half a block from this. Now you're talking about with only one entrance and exit, totally changing our street and the amount of traffic in and out of there, which is already, now it would be horrible. And I just respectfully ask that you don't approve this, certainly not in its present form. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else?
Good evening. My name's Valerie James, and I'm not a very good speaker. I retired from teaching after 41 years, and I'm just used to talking to seventh graders, so I'm going to just... This is my neighborhood that I grew up in. I grew up down the street on Edmond, and if you come into our neighborhood, there's a veer next to the Baptist church, and the sign that says, "Welcome to South Kilbourne." And there was a house sitting there, actually two, and that house has been there since I was 6 years old, and when I moved to Columbia. And I remember my mother driving from church and coming, and it's a gateway into the deep heart of that part of South Kilbourne. A lot of people take the Kilbourne Road and go down to Kilbourne School, which I went to, and a lot of people take that veer, and my mom always took that veer. Well, these units at this number, I've already accepted the fact that there are going to be apartments there. I was opposed to it totally because I didn't want that house torn down. It was built in the 1940s. But this is too many units. I counted the units on our street already. There are 5 apartment complexes. There are over 60 units that people can live in. I can't tell you if they're 2 or 1 bedroom or whatever, but there's 60 units on a street that literally looks like about 2 blocks, maybe 2.5 blocks. That's a lot of people. Population density is very high on that street. And it's a pretty nice neighborhood. I know all the people that live in the houses. I don't know all the apartment people, but they're very friendly and we all get along. But like he said a minute ago, my husband, there are 12 houses in a duplex with 2 families, and all of us are against the 30-plus apartments. We're all against it. That's the only houses besides 2 other houses. And one has a lady in it that I don't deal with because she's a bit touched. And then the other house is a rental. So you're talking about, 12 houses, 1 duplex with 2 families and 2 houses. I don't know what those two houses account for, because I haven't asked that lady, and the other one, the people just moved out. So I'm just letting you know that I know the apartments are probably going to come, but I think that's way too many for our neighborhood, and it's going to change the look of the street and everything. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. Thank y'all for letting me speak. I'm Michelle Huggins. I'm the president of the South Kilburn Neighborhood Association. At this point, I'm quite frustrated. I'm requesting y'all to please defer. Y'all have not had time to actually look at what the correct drawings are. When you go back and you look at what was presented, what has been out there for the public to look at, it does not correspond in quite a few ways. There are things that y'all had, the Planning Commission had said before that it needed to be in line with. Those things were not acknowledged. They were not even dealt with. 32 units, but if it had been in the county, it would have been 24. We pushed. We wanted it to be annexed into the city because of the safety, having the police on time and everything else. Whereas county, we know automatically that's a 30-minute wait minimum. The tree canopy on this property, there are some very aged trees. They're going to disappear, but when you look at it, it kind of looks like they're going to be going through the apartments or whatever. They're not. They're going to be gone. The sidewalk that he mentioned is going to be a sidewalk to nowhere. So if it's going nowhere, what about the rest of that block? Because that's a pretty long block on Suber Street that goes from the beginning of Suber and Overbrook all the way down to Suber and Montgomery. Also, when we look at the apartments that are on Suber Street in Montgomery and / South Kilburn, his previous build that he inherited, I believe, is that correct? You inherited that project? Because you were not there in 2008 when it was approved, is that correct or no? So he inherited it. Originally was presented as it was going to have an opening off of South Kilburn exiting onto Suber Street. DOT said no, that could not happen. They allowed one opening, and that is on Montgomery. The parking, again, you will lose a parking spot. You will lose parking spots because of where that dumpster is. There's no way in the world anybody can park. And I can take you to other apartment complexes and show you that exact same thing where people cannot park there. At this point, we are asking y'all to please review. If y'all want me to, honey, I'll go get us a big old van. I'll come by and pick up every single one of you, and I'll show you Overbrook. I'll show you South Kilburn. I would love for you to see there is only two really main areas. That's Overbrook, and that is Deerwood that has apartments. You go anywhere else over in South Kilburn, you are finding homes. I will take that back. We do have on South Kilburn, right after the Mini Mart, there is some apartments there. You'll find some others a little bit spaced out, but there are single-family homes. They are not going to be like this. This will totally change this. This is a very big focal area, and we really would like you to please come out and actually look at it so you can assess it, seeing it in person. I will be glad to come and pick y'all up and take you around. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else in the public who would like to speak with respect to this application? All right. Planning Commissioners, are there any additional questions?
Just this is the right, what I'm looking at is correct, or no?
Does it have one?
It has one access off of Overbrook.
That is correct.
Okay. Okay.
If I may just address a few things that were mentioned. I've met with the Neighborhood Association now for over 6 months. The plan has changed, absolutely. We sought to change the plan as we listened to some of their concerns. So the traffic concern, we sought to alleviate that by removing the ingress egress off of Suber. And now there's There's concern about the traffic on Overbrook. Well, you got to get in and out of the site somehow. So where we have sought to make changes, we've just been met continuously with, that's not good enough, that's not good enough, that's not good enough. I understand the concerns, I understand the passion. I don't doubt it. They love their community, which is wonderful. We wouldn't seek to be doing this project if it wasn't a good community. That's why we want to be there. We just have a difference of opinion on perhaps the way in which it moves forward. With regard to the number of units, it's zoned RM2. We're not seeking to rezone it. Additionally, as was mentioned, there are not just one or two, there are a number of other condos, apartments, townhomes within 1,000 yards of this proposed development. If you would allow me, Concord Oaks, Overbrook Court, Governor's Place, The Crest, Azalea Place, Abington Alley, within 1,000 yards. So to say that this doesn't conform to the character of the neighborhood, those are already there and existing on the same street. So just wanted to bring that to your attention. I'll answer any questions.
The application says 32 townhomes.
That is incorrect. It's 34.
It is 34?
It is 34. Yes, sir.
34 right here.
Just to clarify too, these are townhomes, not apartments.
Correct.
All individually for sale?
Correct.
Okay.
Do you,
No, ma'am.
do you have any concerns about losing parking spaces? If you're selling them, you're going to have 2 spots per unit,
Correct.
right? So you have no concerns about losing those spots?
No, sir. That's why we're allowing our engineer. He does this for a living, so he's pretty good with numbers.
So I do have a question. When we're looking at, I guess, density, I think, like, technically speaking, this is very well laid out and very efficient. Haven't gone by there. I mean, I've seen the neighboring apartment units, seen the houses. I think once I realized where some of the trees were, I was thinking maybe it would have been nice to see a little more sensitivity to preserving some of those. Just so that this project maybe is more of a positive add to the fabric rather than using the fabric as an amenity. I guess that's just my thoughts, trying to kind of get my head around that, but if any of the commissioners have any thoughts?
I agree with that.
Yes, sir. The vast majority of those trees are pines, and they're mature pines, which are beautiful, but their life expectancy is not great. Most of them probably have a average diameter of 24 to 30 inches, which means it's probably a 50-year-old pine, and those pines will likely die in the next probably 15 to 20 years. But we intend to get an arborist out to look at the trees and to work with Mr. Holder on that.
Any commissioners have any other questions?
So for the landscaping, it looks like there's requirements within the buffer that may not be shown on the map, or is that part of
Yes, sir.
the site plan?
There'll be buffer requirements both I'm going to say going from north to south along, if you're starting on Overbrook going south, and then if you make the corner of the property coming back towards Super, both of those sides, I guess the south side and the east side will be buffered.
With trees and whatnot?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. 1-inch trees or?
Whatever Mr. Holder requires.
Have y'all discussed where the detention will be located on here?
Yes, sir. It'll most likely be on the southern end. That's why you see the significantly larger buffer there.
Have y'all ran calculations and everything? I'm assuming your civil guy has and know what you need and that is sufficient enough space with buffer and everything?
Correct, yes, sir.
And that y'all will have that cleaned up as well?
Well, that's one of the reasons why we're going to have to take it off and down Overbrook is because we wouldn't be able to detain all of it on site.
Just sheet it?
No, it'll be piped.
Okay.
Yep. Because we've got to get it out to Overbrook and then down the street.
Got it.
Do you know how many units are next door?
There are condos next door, if my memory serves me. I don't know off the top of my head, but there are, is it 30? Okay. So it's 30 right next door. And those have been there for a number of years, 20 plus, maybe 30 plus.
What is the City of Columbia Housing Authority next door to you?
It's just that's what.
Is that a halfway house?
No, it's
Okay.
not. I think I forget the term, but it's affordable housing for those who would apply through the city.
Gotcha.
So I think it's Columbia Housing Authority.
Mhm.
I think is who owns that.
Are these separated for fire code purposes or is for the limit?
I think you can have 7.
Five? Okay.
I think you can have 7 attached, and then there's got to be a separation, or it moves into a true apartment. So we saw it to be well within the limits of that. Really, just from an aesthetic perspective, if you get too many, it just doesn't look good. So.
Any other comments? I guess I think, just for me personally, I'm one vote up here. It seems like, to me, the density is just a little too high. I think in a way where it didn't feel so parking lot and houses. But in general, I like the concept. I guess and I guess to some degree, we're always going to be at a battle with increasing density in areas where it's allowed, but how do we do it in a way that works from different angles?
Yes, sir.
I'm sensitive to that, so I'm on the fence.
I'm battling with that as well. Considering what I've seen you've done and what you've got up top on the South Street.
Can y'all speak into the microphone?
Yeah. My concern is with the chairman as well.
Question for staff. In the recommendations, it says very tight, if it was reduced by a few units, be arranged more buildings facing the street, et cetera. Are those options given? And, is that something that, if that's the recommendation, how is that something we can follow?
Sorry, so you were asking about the comments regarding the density?
Yeah, if I'm reading that correctly, layout density technically allowed is very tight for the site. If the plan were reduced by only a few units, it could be arranged for more buildings to face the street, et cetera.
Correct.
I mean, that's the staff recommendation. How could we follow that recommendation in this circumstance?
I mean, I guess, how could the planning commission, or how could the?
I mean, if we're voting to approve this up or down, we're not voting to approve it with a,
I mean, I believe a new plan would have to be submitted for approval in order to approve something with fewer units, yeah.
understood.
Yep.
In order to approve lesser units, would,
Yeah, we'd have to look at the plan to ensure
I just didn't hear the
compliance.
last part she said.
Yeah, I believe what she's saying is that if you reduce the amount of units, and then the plan could be reconfigured, and so we'd want to look at that plan to make sure from a staff standpoint that all the requirements of the code are met.
Got it.
But as far as we're concerned here today, we're voting up or down on the project as presented.
One question like that. I'm not pushing for this, but just to clarify, if this project went to 24 units, it doesn't come before us at all.
That's correct.
That's what I gather.
That's correct.
Okay. So I think what's really on the table here is the density between 24 and 32 or 10 units in the layout.
If I may just ask a question to the commissioner. So understand that density is a concern. So if it's zoned RM2 and the density allows for it, help me understand the concern other than just a desire.
I think you just jam everything you possibly can on there. And yeah, it's allowed for that, but I think that what you're doing is you're seeing what you're allowed and you're just jamming everything you possibly can and taking it right to the line. And that bothers me personally. That's my 2 cents.
So if the zoning is RM2, then wouldn't that govern what's allowed and what's not allowed? And truly, I'm just seeking to understand. If that's the zoning, then as long as we're complying with the zoning, that's what the zoning's there for, is to provide guidance and governance on if it's a RSF3 or if it's a industrial site.
If I could clarify, just for the commission, I mean, part of the planning commission's role is also to look at city plans that have been adopted and ensure that as we are enforcing our ordinance, that those plans are also compliant with adopted plans. So that's part of the reason we provide these comments that are, directly from the Rosewood Plan and things like that, is just to make sure that those things are also considered, because every site is different, and so a maximum allowable may or may not always represent the principles of an adopted plan. So that it's about the commission balancing all of those things. If everything were just black and white for the ordinance, we probably wouldn't have a commission approval requirement. And so that's part of what the planning commission has to do, is weigh all of those things. And that is a legal requirement of the planning commission to do that as an appointed board.
And I would say, technically this meets the rules. I think what we're tasked with is saying, inclusive of that fact, does it fit within the context of what the neighborhood and the master plan was? So that just because it checks the boxes over here, does that mean it gets to happen and be a positive or a negative?
Understand. Thank you for that. Yes,
Sure.
sir.
Like I said, I think just looking at it, it's well laid out, well thought out. When I have been out there to look at the site and try to get my head around the way it feels, I think it feels too much. The buildings that are next door are all larger buildings with the units more consolidated, where these are all spread out. So the overall footprint of the development that you see that's not landscaped or not shielded is just larger.
Okay.
I think from a density standpoint, I mean, you can put the density here, at least without our input. If you're under 23 or 24, I think we'd like to try to figure out maybe, and I don't know if I speak for the group, just speaking for me, maybe if there's just more sensitivity to blending in here.
Certainly, we could work on that. Yes, sir.
Okay. You know, I do want to help you move forward. I just don't want to also do it in a way that's counterproductive, but.
Completely understand.
We don't have a plan that's different to approve.
Yep.
So, you know, we're either tasked with approving this one, not approving this one, or deferring this one. You know, and we can put them, once we get through questions, we can see where we fall.
Yeah.
Do you have any other
I don't have
questions or
any other
comments?
questions. I don't think I have any other questions.
I mean, I know it's impossible to make everybody happy.
Yeah.
We're not after that.
Understand.
But in terms of doing what's right. So, if anyone has any other comments?
I guess my struggle that I've been sitting here contemplating has to do with, does the structure and the building of what you're trying to construct complements the area that's currently there? And I'm still struggling with that piece.
Yes, ma'am. If you would ride down Overbrook, this development will be significantly nicer than those that are currently there. And those that are currently there, the vast majority face inward. And what we've sought to do is actually to face them outward. That's why we have some of the design and structure with the parking interior and not exterior. The parking is a little bit all over the place in those other developments. So from a resident perspective, we believe that they would prefer to look out on to the major streets, not into a parking lot. And so we could certainly reconfigure and redesign for them to be more maybe contiguous and less spread out. But at the same point in time, from a resident's perspective, that sense of space is often attractive. And it feels more like a townhome and less like an apartment. So just things that we're trying to balance and
You've got a great corner.
Yes.
I think there's, with a little work, a way to satisfy some concerns and also maybe do it in a way that's really taking advantage of that opportunity there.
Okay.
I know you guys do great work.
Well, thank you.
Just wanna
Thank you. So from what I'm hearing from the commission is, if you give us some time to go maybe work on some things and working with staff, maybe bring back another proposal that may be more amenable given what I've heard today.
Yeah, I think if we had a motion to defer.
Mr. Chair, I move that site plan 2023-005, 3800 Overbrook Drive, TS number 137080501 be deferred.
I have a motion. May I get a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor? Say
Aye.
All those opposed?
Opposed.
Can I get a roll call? Yes.
Ms. Davis?
Yes.
Mr. Cook?
Yes.
Mr. Tupper?
Yes.
Mr. Hart?
No.
Okay, the motion passes.
Thank you. To defer. I think does that bring us through the regular agenda?
Yeah, that's it. The only other thing I wanted to mention in other business is that the training that, and I know you guys have probably already heard from Sky and Lee about training opportunities, but they're going to be back in person, so just be prepared for that. We'll set those up in our offices, but it's how we've done it throughout history until the pandemic, so it may be slightly less convenient, but just bear with us and we'll be getting you information about those opportunities throughout the year. So that's all I had.
Thank you. Thank everyone for bearing with us today, too. Technically, but if there's no other business, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to adjourn.
May I get a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you all.